Oh, Ben, you want to take this one?
No, this is your fault, dude. You started this.
All right, let's run with that.
The Big Red Couch, the podcast about making role-playing games. A group of GMs and players draw ideas from the mystery box and bring their game pitches to you.
Hello, listener, and welcome to episode 100 of The Big Red Couch. Apparently, all of this, everything you're about to hear, and depending on how we edited this, everything you've already heard, is my fault personally. Today, or tonight, depending on where on earth you are, on the show, we've got myself, Greg. In New Zealand, we have
Ben, hello.
And very kindly joining us from way the hell across that big wet thing, we have...
Hello.
The gutter Skype.
That's right.
Hi!
I told you we needed a matching order.
Yeah. I can introduce because we're so poorly rehearsed. I'm at 5 and I'm saying hello. Next here is Nikki.
Hi.
I barely heard you.
I've been chastised. Hi.
I'm trying to go alphabetical. Andros.
Hello.
That's Andros. Excellent. Blind Geek.
How's it going?
Mark Kinney.
Hello, all.
Trilobite.
Hey.
If I left anybody out, boy, that's going to be pretty sad. So there it was. The gutter Skypes. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Ben. We're very happy to be here for your 100th episode. I'm done.
Huzzah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us on this auspicious occasion. We had no idea we would get this far, and looks like we're going to go yet further, so welcome everyone.
Happy 100th.
Yay.
Here.
Happy 100th.
Thank you. Happy 200ths for a little while ago, I grant you. To you all, because 200, come on, double century.
Crazy.
Don't rub it in.
Liked it? Thank you.
Standing on our heads.
And if we're lucky, by the time we reach 25, Monkeys Took My Jetpack might actually get to episode 90.
Or maybe even episode 22.
Oh.
Hey, wait a minute now. Which one was it? Was it Craig or Ben that actually RPG'd as a monkey and stole a jetpack?
That's definitely Craig.
That would be me. Yeah.
That's at least a little bit fabulous.
I'd like to say lifelong goal, but honestly, it was only while it was happening that it occurred to me. Yes, lifelong goal. So retrospective lifelong goal.
Excellent. Very happy to hear that. So what are you guys going to do now that your life is pretty much over?
This is it. I mean,
It doesn't get any better than this, you're right.
I'm sorry. I was quoting a 70s teen idol.
I figured I'd
Let's
start
bring
a
out the cake.
really self-indulgent YouTube channel and just tell sad tales of the sea.
Perfect.
Sad Tales of the Sea?
are there any other
Cool.
kind?
I'd listen to that. Go on, then. Seagulls not catch fish.
Craig, I thought you were using Python these days, but...
Oh.
Craig and Ben, enjoy this time in your life because this is the time when you still have your choices. You know, in your teens, you think you can do anything, and you do. Your 20s are a blur. You get to your 30s, and you find yourself saying, hey, what happened to my 20s? You're 40. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but...
But you get into your hundreds, and you go, what? What?
Speak up there.
Where's my cake? What?
We hadn't had a
off my
City
lawn.
Slickers reference in a very long time, so I thought I would just throw one in there.
That's
Get off my lawn. Uphill
Who
both
are
ways.
you? Who am I? What?
Craig,
Yes.
we haven't spoken to you since you had your long day's journey into Scotland.
Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
We've only heard about that from a distance.
Was it fabulous?
Survived it and should be proud. But what was up with that?
What was... I'm trying to remember what was going on with the long day's journey into Scotland. And I'm completely blanking, so really I'm showing my age. It's very thematic.
I asked if he was following the March of the Haggis.
Ooh.
It was like November, late December.
Were you?
Oh, I misunderstood.
Were you rambling around the whiskey tasting trail, and that's why you're not remembering? Shame.
I can neither confirm nor deny that potentially accurate statement.
Mm.
Personally,
Can or will.
How many bottles did you
confirm
bring
or
home?
Nope, I am currently based in England. I would say sunny old England, but
It's not.
it's the middle of winter. The sun sets at 4:30 in the afternoon, and it's cold and dark all of the time.
Probably going by the international clock, 4:30 in the afternoon was 2 days ago for you.
More or less, yeah.
yeah, I think that's about right. It's let's see, it's Wednesday here, so that means it's the Jurassic period where you are, right?
Mm.
Yep.
About
dear.
11s in the Jurassic period.
Wow.
How have you all been?
Meh. No.
I mean, you know.
Thanks for asking.
You complain.
Well, I can, but I won't.
I don't want to bother you with my troubles.
I
We've had
could
some-
complain, but why bother? Nothing ever comes of it anyway, and you just
The list
have
is
something
so
else to complain
long.
about.
So
Oh.
great, in other
Well-
words, it sounds like.
I've had beautiful weather.
Mm.
Oh, you in Florida? Shut
Got
up.
a great mountain thing going on down there, right? Ah.
Go
Good
stick
man.
an orange in your mouth. An orange. I'm sorry.
I heard we might get a cold snap tonight. It might get down into the 40s.
Oof.
You poor
So
baby.
stay safe, okay? I
We
mean,
need proper winter weather. Actually, we do too, but the temperatures are finally dropping. Woohoo! So I'm very excited.
We got down to 17 last night.
Ooh, we're not there yet. We've only had frost once. Arr! But, you know, it's supposed to get into the 30s.
Oh, little
Frost?
Jack Frost, get lost, get lost.
Yeah, I went out to get the paper the other morning, and there was finally some frost on the ground. It only took to December, like 3rd or something. So
We ought to clarify that we are talking Fahrenheit here.
Mm.
I was
Yeah.
figuring
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the 17 had me
Oh.
confused.
I've been
That sounds mighty cold.
Yeah, we can make that allowance. That's fine.
I'm so bad at
I thought
translating.
you lived on, like,
everything.
Pluto.
I'm so
Oh, okay.
sorry. It's not been 0 yet. How about that?
Well, don't forget the coldest day on Earth is the same as the warmest day on Mars.
Is it? Well, that's something to think about.
That's kind of sweet in a way.
Yes. It's murderously sub-zero somewhere all the time.
But not here, and that's why I'm bitter. So,
Yeah, here in the Upside Down, we've had that thing where at the start of December, the Purikawa trees bloom a lovely red, most of the grass dies, and the roads become sticky.
Well, that's right. It's summertime for you, isn't it?
Sticky road.
Yeah, that's just, and this is
Yeah.
all sort of like in the last week, and it's just come down. It's come down like a hammer. So,
Does it normally rain where you live?
frequently.
Much
Yeah.
frequently? So you have been having rain, right?
Not for the moment. It's actually
Ah.
dried up for a little time. There's this El Nino seems to be in full effect this year, so it's going to get dry.
Bad for the billy bomb.
Yeah. Or at least the local water reservoirs.
have you ever had a rain of wombats? I would think that would be fabulous.
Throwing all the vocabulary.
That would be
we know.
horrifying.
We have to catch them. You don't let them bounce. That would be mean.
They are cute, but they're kind of chunky. They would.
So, what's wrong with that? They're just big boned. It's just the way nature is. It's beautiful.
Real wombats have curves.
That's right.
It's only a problem if you're a car.
Built for comfort, not for speed. Damn it.
They're not very aerodynamic, and that would be a problem.
Razor sharp wombats.
I used to bullseye wombats in my T16
Can't
back
help
home.
Oh boy.
Thank you.
Ooh, if you cross a wombat with a sugar glider, think of that.
Oh, that would
That way
be
lies madness.
amazing.
They'd be
A sugar
immensely
bat.
cute flying wombats.
Yeah, you spent so long figuring out whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think if you should.
The most adorably destructive
You
creature
could have
ever.
a sugar wom ranch. and they would just play and fly and kind
Sugar
of study
Bomb Ranch
grounds
sounds like
all
something
the
you'd find outside Las Vegas.
I know.
Or some really scary kind of salad dressing.
Oh,
Like weirdly introduced by like Ben Vereen or something.
When I'm eating a salad, the thing I like to put on there is some nice, yummy Sugar Bomb Ranch.
Everyone's afraid to even ask.
That's their tagline. Sugar Bomb Ranch. Everyone's afraid to even ask.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now in Blurg.
And we've been drawn together to discuss the weighty topic of international detective dragons from outer space.
Oh.
That is indeed a weighty topic.
Mm-hmm.
this
The
one
topic
is
which
either Blind
Anim has
Geek's or Anim's fault.
So wanting to place blame. Have you noticed this, lads?
It's Adam's
fault
fault
is
because
it
he's
anyway?
been teasing us for how many years now? Let's see. We've been doing the show since 2008, and he's been doing IDDFOS since the dawn of time. So,
2006.
oh, really?
See,
Only-
when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Wow. I did not realize it was only 2 years. Okay, my bad. Now I feel bad for, even though it was a joke. I did not know. Anyway,
It's 11
because when I
years.
found it had like 70 episodes. I was a latecomer, you see. So anyway, he's been teasing us with finding out how that better be. I'll deal with that in a second. Sorry. Off mic noise that you guys don't hear. There's the MacGyver theme, and if she's watching an episode of the new series without me, I'm going to skin her alive. Anyway.
Okay.
That's what
But,
Devo, whatever the hell it's called. That's what that's for.
That's not the point. It's not the point. It's not the point. Anyway,
I had no
He's
idea
been-
Devo were even in MacGyver.
They totally left the
Not as
music
relevant.
and went to TV land.
Okay, it's the original, so I don't care as much. Okay, you can
As
tell by the
much.
theme music.
I like that qualifier as
Okay.
much.
Yeah, well, And of course, Devo is, whenever a problem comes along, they help him with it. No,
Yeah.
they've been teasing. He's been teasing us with the story of how it got its name probably since the first episode of International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. So I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, now on a completely different podcast, he will give us the story.
I suspect that after all the game ideas that spring from that particular phrase are given forth tonight, that the actual reason IDDFOS was named International Detective Dragons from Outer Space will be very, very boring and anticlimactic.
I suspect you're right, but I still want to know.
Or will be subtly retconned to take the best bits of the ideas we come up with. Because I've never GM'd like that. Has anyone else here?
No.
No,
There's a
no,
thought.
of course
No,
not.
no.
Good. The conspiracy continues.
Yes, such information cannot be released here, where it could be heard by literally tens of people.
Oh, more than that. The long tail.
Awesome. And I guess as a crossover episode, and possibly as a quick, checking the temperature of the corpse, we should actually do our format and explain what the idea is. Because when was the last time we actually explained ourselves, Craig? I mean, in specific rather than general.
Oh, so we're taking that court case out. Okay, in that case, sometime in the single-digit episodes, I think.
Indeed. So
it's probably time.
It probably is. Would you like to take this opportunity to restate our mission statement? Sorry, I just came from work. I'll sit down.
I was wondering where the corporate speak was coming from, but I didn't want to judge more than I already was. All right, for anybody who's come across from the Gutter Skype's place to our couch, that worked better in my head. The goal here is to take the phrase International Detective Dragons from Outer Space and then try to pitch a game based on that phrase, however loosely. That's basically it. It's worked for 100 episodes so far. I'm genuinely not sure how.
Some things you just don't question.
Yep.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Don't look behind the couch. You don't want to know.
So, who's come armed with game pitches?
Me!
Anyone. Anyone at all. Make a noise.
Me! Pick me! Oh! Leaping up and down, leaping up and down, leaping up and down.
Well, I didn't know what we were meant to be doing this evening, so probably I should go first. I mean, it sounds like no one else has anything, so...
Somebody will say my idea, which is not all that good anyway, but it's my idea, damn it, and then I won't
God,
have
I wish someone would just volunteer.
All
I
right,
hate
I'll
doing
just pick
this,
somebody
but,
from the audience. Nick.
Me!
Oh, I'll do it.
Oh, did you say yes? Oh, all right, if you insist.
It could be tradition. I mean,
Fine, I'll
This
go.
is where we need the like bingo machine, isn't it?
Nikki went first in episode 50 as well, so establish a tradition.
Did I? Oh, crap, I'm sorry. No, then I'll go last.
No. Tradition is important. It happens more than once. It's a tradition.
Tradition!
Tradition.
Okay, you guys are going to hear it and you're going to groan because it's really, really dorky.
Good.
At an episode 52. Okay.
No, that was the RuPaul idea. That was
RuPaul's Spectral Drag Race. That was a hoot.
That sounds fantastic.
So this was my idea, and I actually would love to play it sometime if we did it. So it's actually a multi-dimensional oodleplex of galaxies based game of Clue, and you get 4 international interstellar detective dragons.
I love it.
Interstellar, right? No, wait. I should have written this down because I wrote the initials and now I'm all confused. From outer space, you get those dragons who are detectives, indeed detectives, and they have to sort out who done it. Like Mad Dr. Zog from the planet Bork with the killer robot and the big red button. You know, that sort of thing.
I kind of want to play this too.
In the 10th dimension. Well, there should be multi-dimensions too. So it could be 2 dimensions and they would be, flat, and I'm not sure how a 2-dimensional object create havoc, but I'd sort that out. All right, mull it over. I'll work out the details. Off you go.
I like it.
Yeah.
Don't.
I picture it took parts for each dimension.
The dimension, well, maybe the dimensions make it too hard, but you could have an oodleplex of galaxies, and you would get spaceships to go from place to place. Who blew up the planet Zircon or whatever, and you have to sort that out.
You could picture it almost like a either an actual board like Clue with the different rooms being different galaxies or universes, or you could do that as like maybe a narrative board. It sounds like I like that idea, and you're kind of like moving from different universe to different universe, picking up the different clues and whatnot.
Yes. Yes. In my head, it was like virtual reality. So you would get your spaceship and you would drive from place to place, or jump from place to place, or whatever it is, warp thingy, and then appear. Ta-da! So, like, who completely annihilated the seas of Max 77 planet thingy? I don't have any of my terminology because I didn't write it down. It was all floating in my head. But yeah, but then you would have to announce it like you do with Clue, and the game master, like you would, yes, you would have a game master, and that the answer would be in a big shiny intergalactic, that's the word. In a big sealed envelope. And if you get it wrong, you self-destruct. I think that ups the stakes a little bit.
Just a tad, yeah.
Makes you a better detective.
Wait, if you get it wrong, the character self-destructs or the player self-destructs?
She said you self-destruct.
I think it's much more interesting. Yes, if it's the player that self-destructs.
Yes, the player self-destructs. It's a high-stakes game, but I think with the title of such sweeping magnitude, it needs to be.
Terrific game, but you can only play it once.
Well, the winner can play it again, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And that will lead you into marketing problems because you can only sell the game to a given person on average once.
No, most people are cockier than that, would think they'd win.
Mhm.
You could probably get them to purchase it and family and friends to buy it for them.
Well, see, that's the thing. The game says some assembly required on the box, and everybody assumes it has to do with the pieces inside the box. It actually has to do with the players after the game is completed.
Yeah,
Well,
just
you
a
know-
simple, Stephanie.
These days, if you can sell all of these like legacy versions of all of these games where you make the changes to the game with each iteration that you play, and there was a role-playing game called Sweet Agatha, I think, some time back, where the idea was that you would cut the book up.
Wow.
Sacrilege.
So
I
it's
like it. Oh,
you know?
yeah, that was the one by Neil Diamond. I remember now.
Sweet Agatha.
Agatha.
Ba,
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 ba.
ba. Gaming never
snip,
felt
snip,
so
the book
good.
apart.
Bum, bum, bum.
Sorry.
It came with its own theme song, just like Carnal.
Oh man.
And nobody touches that one.
I mean,
We're,
that
we're
goes
all agreed?
Hey,
in all senses of the word.
So we're looking at.
that was my sad little idea. Off you go. Somebody
I
else.
like it.
No, that's good. I would go full psychedelia with it. Yeah.
If you cannot airbrush the scene from the game onto the side of a van,
Yes.
it's just not good enough.
Indeed. And you'd have to have terrible dragon XP of various classic detectives, of course. But yeah,
Right, you'd have the noir detective, and you would have the bumbling detective, a la Peter Falk, and you would have Columbo. Wait, that was Peter Falk, right?
Yep.
Columbo.
Yep.
Yeah,
One
and you
more
would have
thing.
debonair detective. Ooh, but they'd all be dragons. With
Would they have
big
different traits?
teeth
So-
and claws.
So
and
which
fire.
one is the Batman dragon? Because he is a detective. People forget that.
Is he?
Mm.
I thought he just showed up and smacked heads around and stuff.
I think it's like a broody CrossFit enthusiast.
That's the tagline for the next film.
Now I'm picturing a dragon with a pencil-thin mustache. Dragon FU. Oh,
Oh, that's beautiful.
I will get to the bottom of this case. I can feel it in my bones.
Dragon bones.
I like it.
All right, maybe we get rid of the multi-dimensions. I think that might make it too difficult. But definitely, and it has to be big crimes like planets going missing or disappearing or things like that.
I think the actually going to different bizarre locales, and they may as well be in different adjacent dimensions. I think sells the bigness, the over the top. So
And then we can make a movie of it.
Would you have to film it in black and white for that film noir look? Yeah.
just some scenes with voiceover that focus on the character, because
Each dragon gets his own. If you're a noir dragon, then yes, it's black and white. And if you're a more modern, stylized dragon, then you get whatever your mood and look would be. That would be confusing as a movie, wouldn't it? Where the hell am I? What the hell am I looking at? All right, I'll stick with the board game for the time being. Make clues so much more fun. Okay, that was my little idea.
That one links into an idea that Kev sent in
Ooh.
that I could read out at this point if that works.
Go on
Mhm.
then.
All right. Kev writes in, I will very much not be able to make the recording, which sucks, because conferences are terrible, and anyone who suggests organizing one should be hurled into the sea by law.
like the physical force of legal existence just propels them off a cliff.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Ah.
picturing.
Kev writes, the anime Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is a fun show that's centered around the life and times of an interdimensional dragon who is really into living as a maid as a lifestyle choice and the misunderstandings that come from being a dragon while doing so. So my idea for International Detective Dragons from Outer Space is that it's a game about a similar premise. A collection of otaku who happen to be dragon men, women, NBs, etc. from outer space, and different planets, of course, because that's just sensible, who've decided to live on Earth as detectives. The extra fun part is that each of these monomaniac dragons is fixated on clearly the best detective to live as, which means, as they're embracing different stereotypes, national and otherwise, of who and what a detective is, all confused by the fact that they're filtering their understanding of what it all means through the fact that they're also immensely powerful alien dragons with little grasp of how human culture actually works in practice. For example, someone fixated on being an American detective is likely to think it's not actually legal to solve crimes before being kicked off the case for being a loose cannon and forced to turn in their badge because television. Of course, they're going to have a very different worldview than somebody obsessed with living as a PI, both American in theory, but very different stereotypes and eras are involved, and the dragons haven't noticed and or don't understand and or don't care. All the PCs are dragons who know each other and likely get into nerd fights about whose fandom is best. Also, they try to solve crimes, probably illegally and with no official sanction at all. Maybe putting up flyers badly advertising their own personal detective services. A collection of dragon detectives super seriously approaching the mystery of who's knocking over dustbins and annoying the neighborhood watch would be fun. At least if you're me. Kev suggests as systems either Atomic Robo or Fate Accelerated Edition, and comments that basically he wants comparatively narrative systems that shortcut us to dealing with what happens when dragons lifestyle cosplaying as Sam Spade, Poirot, Detective Conan, multiple versions of Sherlock, and the like try to survive day to day.
Yeah.
I particularly like multiple versions of Sherlock. The idea of a whole party made of multiple versions of Sherlock trying to out-Sherlock one another.
Jeremy Brett version and the Cumberbatch version. And
I know there's one version out there where Sherlock is in fact a complete idiot, and it's Watson who's the brains of the operation.
Without a clue. That's the name of that movie.
There's also the series Sherlock Warlock. Yeah, which is kind of that same idea.
Huh.
Is it Sherlock Warlock? It's Sherlock something or Warlock.
I think it's Super Hulock. I think that's what you're looking
Yeah,
for.
whatever.
I've seen a couple of episodes of Sherlock Holmes in the
read it.
22nd century.
there is a book where it's Warlock. His name is he is a warlock and he's a moron.
Yeah,
He
that's the one I'm thinking
a
of.
demon or something, so his power comes from this demon, and every time he uses it, it's getting closer and closer to taking him over, but he can't seem to stop himself. He's an absolute twit. Yeah, it's. I read that.
That's
it was
the one.
Fun.
That is the one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nikki. I was butchering it, so I'm glad you.
I made it up.
And Without a Clue is a I feel rather underrated comedy from the late 80s, early 90s with Ben Kingsley and Michael Caine, which is awesome.
Which one is Michael Caine?
Michael Caine plays the actor who is playing Sherlock Holmes.
Oh.
And Ben Kingsley is playing Dr. John Watson, who also writes the stories for the Strand about Sherlock Holmes. And there you go.
I really like the idea of all these characters really digging into their genres also. Like, it seems like you could provide some good tags, maybe even mechanically, to motivate players to do that with all kinds of great fallout.
Yeah, any kind of aspect that you can draw on for, I am doing something that's completely in character and utterly stupid. Give me a fate point. We'll have the players crawling over broken glass to do dumb things.
Like crawling over broken glass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, actually.
I picture the Columbo version of one of the dragons just stopping suddenly as he moves away and turning. Just one more thing. And his wing knocks over 3 or 4 houses.
Yes, exactly what I was picturing when you said that.
Beg your pardon. Oh, so sorry. Oh, is that a problem? Sorry.
Those nice shoes. Where did you get those shoes?
Showing up truly enormous, an eye peering into a 43rd story office. Excuse me, I know you're very busy.
Excellent.
I don't know. Do we just jump in?
I'd say
or what?
jump in.
Yep.
Okay. First of all, before I give my idea, I would like to address something. I just listened to 99 last night, and you guys are wondering about Hobomancer and whether or not it has rules for trains and whatnot, and it does.
Excellent.
It's a great game. So
But
if
you can ignore
haven't,
them.
if you
Go ahead.
haven't, well,
You don't
well,
like
yeah,
it,
you
just
could.
ignore it.
But I mean, trains are a big part of being a hobo, so it'd be kind of weird to. I mean, they're not. It's a rule. It's quags, so they're not super complex rules, but there are rules for like how to jump on the train and stuff like that. So So anyway, just wanted to clarify that. My idea is kind of it could have been, and in fact, one of the systems I recommend for it would be Cartoon Action Hour. It could have been an 80s cartoon series. And the title would be International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. And what it is there was way off in space, there's a star, and around this star are planets which are inhabited by dragons. And any civilization needs its law enforcement. So you have dragon, or I don't know what you call it, some FireForce or something like that. But it's the dragon police, essentially. And at some point, something, which, the details are sketchy because I just thought of this last night but something happens, and the dragons who are the player characters have been exiled, yet they're also going after these criminals who are also exiled and wind up on Earth. And these dragons are able to transform themselves into humans. So these dragons, who are the detectives, go to Earth, and they're trying to get leads on where or who these criminals are. And in doing so, they are constantly running into people and solving mysteries. And sometimes those mysteries take a supernatural event, and inevitably a monstrosity climax ensues where they have reason to transform into their true selves, which are the dragons, of course. And I figure, to get the international angle in here, there are so many different cultures that have really cool dragon pantheons. Mm-hmm. So you would have the typical Middle Ages European myth dragon, and you might have a Chinese dragon, or any number of them. I think there's a bunch in different cultures. So you've got that would be that's kind of the gimmick. It's instead of just doing your generic dragon, these are dragons with they're based on dragons from different cultures around the world. Awesome. And they have different attributes to reflect that. So they are international detective dragons from outer space.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. I had one that's a little similar in that I was going to go full, what do you call it? Full
Monty.
Full Sam Spade sort of film noir sort of thing, where the dragons are in human form like that, and they are detectives, except that they get themselves involved in like James Bond style conspiracies and national intrigues. And the tie back to the original International Detective Dragons from Outer Space might be that you might not ever see them as dragons. They might just allude to being from outer space or being dragons from time to time.
Right.
Just frustratingly reference the fact that they might be outer space dragons.
Oh, I love it. But no abilities, no traits, nothing in the game ever ties into that except for weird offhand references.
Back on Zark, we used to do blah, blah, blah.
And actually, I had a fairly similar riff too, but I was focusing a lot more on how you have the whole reptoid part of like UFO lore, and granted, you want to be careful of that because you can go into some rather nasty places if you dig in the wrong directions. But I had
don't listen to him. Dig as deep and as fast as you can.
I had this idea of like back on the home world, there's been a coup or just a general change of government there, and they want to take a more benevolent view of the world of these other worlds, and so they're sending agents to root out the agents that they'd sent before. And with the same kind of deal there, you've got the ones from the different dragon mythologies and that, and the idea is that they have to root out these hidden agents, figure out who are the hidden agents and root them out. And that's where the detective part comes in. And, well, it's quite possible they are dragons. You know how that goes. But, yeah,
they
very
take
similar
the other one's
kind
words.
Oh, boy, don't I.
Both of those weirdly put me in mind of a very strange crossover of the Incredible Hulk and Alias Smith and Jones. of just these characters who are enormously powerful, and it's all going to go terribly wrong if they actually use it. Also, they're desperately trying to be the good guys and getting blamed for everything.
Yes.
Dig it.
Do they have to walk off into the sunset at the end to sad music?
I think in Blind Geeks one, absolutely. That has to be required. Ideally, it should be raining, and they're in an alleyway inexplicably. As I understand it, that's where most of the episodes of Incredible Hulk seem to take place, in sort of alleyways with crunchable objects around. Seemed to be the way it went. And purple trousers for some reason.
Every once in a while, a building would go, and well, didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
Mr. K seems to have a nice dollop of paranoia in it too, because who's the good dragon? Who's the secret
bad
agent dragon?
Oh.
Yeah, it's
pretending to be a good dragon. Can you trust this dragon? No, you can't.
Yeah, it's something definitely very much in the Delta Green mold, possibly.
Yeah.
What if you had that within the party, where some of the people or all of the people are members of these different factions?
Like paranoia?
Yes.
I was going to say Draconis Complex.
Oh.
Trust no one, stay alert, and keep your fire charge handy.
Of course, to a little bit more of fun with mine, imagine making a fiasco set where you're playing the reverse version. You are the hidden former Reptoid agents, and you're trying to avoid the incoming international detective dragons from outer space, and they have their own tilt table which indicates when they show up. Kind of like the Harry Dresden one in that one Dresden Files based fiasco set.
Oh no, it's those dreaded international detective dragons from outer space. Man, we got to get out of here. See, we got to go. We got to scat.
The wise guy in the corner kept slapping a blackjack into his palm, and I was ready to breathe fire. I mean,
I was ready. Yeah, exactly. I said too much. It's a metaphor, man. A metaphor.
Nice.
Yeah. You don't have any gold on you, do you, Jules? Diamonds? Forget I asked.
My wife always said I was a first-class hoarder.
That actually ties back to Tonya's suggestion, which I will relate. She was unable to make the podcast, but I'll read out what she sent through to us. Hi, Tonya here with an idea for Show 100. International Detective, Dragons from Outer Space.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
A game about podcasters trying to put on a show. Unbeknownst to the cast, one of their number is an alien dragon who is using the podcast to signal other members of his crew. There are mysterious forces, capitalized, trying to prevent the dragons from getting together so they can leave the planet. The players could be the cast of the podcast, some of whom are just human beings trying to get podcasts out on a regular schedule, but getting pulled into the intrigue. Someone keeps sabotaging their equipment/recording/website. Dragon could be the player who simultaneously needs the show to go out, and for others not to figure out they're not human. Hello, fellow humans. There could also be another player from the mysterious force who also needs to stay incognito while preventing the show from going to air. When play bogs down, there could be hints from a long-time listener, first-time poster on their site, who are actually dragons in other countries, or from the MF, or a mixture if that fits the game better. Mechanically, I'm thinking it'd be something like Fiasco, so it's more out the drum and storytelling than group puzzle solving. Not sure how you'd keep secret identities in that system, so if there's a storytelling game that has a Cluedo kind of feel, that might work better. Alternatively, you could do a forum post game where all the players are either dragons or people pretending to be dragons. The actual dragons need to meet in secret on a particular date, so there's a timer running down to invitations go out. The people want to crash the dragon party. Every player can vote on whether other players should get the real invite or the fake one, and votes change right up to the minute the timer goes to 0, at which point the invites go out by private message according to whether the other players voted you a dragon or not dragon.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It's a link to a forum or a sub-forum. It's either a cave or a mountain that's been decorated with costume jewelry or whatever. and has whatever party food that you expect giant flying lizards to put out. This is the fake party. The other one is the actual party, which can be anything from a penthouse suite with a string quartet to a serious business meeting to a rented farmhouse relaxicon. Whatever the mods GM thinks is fun. And very kind words. Thanks for keeping the show running. You guys are awesome. Also, thank you from the BRC fans for coming back and joining the fun. Thank you, guys. I hope you get game ideas or entertainment for the next 100 shows. Yay! Thank you, Tony, for that. It was an awesome idea. I personally immediately thought paranoia or maybe werewolf/mafia, but
yes, that's what I was thinking of too.
Yeah, but slightly less bitchy.
Yeah, trying to a little bit about that Battlestar Galactica board game where one of the players is secretly a Cylon.
That sounds rough.
Yeah.
You mean all the players are secretly Cylons?
No. That would be weird.
That'd be an interesting game, though.
It would be hilarious, yeah.
We're all commie mutant traders? What?
Well, this is awkward.
So everybody's sabotaging the ship, huh? Okay.
Wow,
No,
this
I
sucks.
feel dumb.
Yeah. No, that's it. Let's say I like that. It's definitely an awesome idea, and the idea of people going, "Ha! I'm going to vote these obvious non-dragons off the island."
Yes, that's pretty brilliant. Especially because at least half the time, those would be the actual dragons who are getting voted off the island.
Probably, yeah.
And the humans that, the non-dragons rather, would be the ones that are getting the invite, and they find out that it's somewhere at an extremely high altitude in the Himalayas or something. Good luck getting there.
There's no way of getting to that unless you could... Oh.
Well, that just makes it more obvious that it's not that place. It's just too convenient.
I think you figured out how to weed them out effectively. You just invite them somewhere where you can't get there unless you have wings and see who shows up.
But do all dragons have wings?
Ooh.
St. George's dragon didn't, from all the artwork we've seen.
Chinese dragons.
And look what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still stuck on Himalayas.
Would be in the cave, though. It would be knights on sticks, stuck in like giant half grapefruits.
Party favors.
Nightcrackers. Everybody.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Which has a slightly different meaning in some places, because crackers are the things you pull apart and then...
It's like a wishbone. Yeah.
It's night bread.
Ooh, I got the small part.
Yeah. But would there be a joke and a funny hat inside?
Oh.
Hilarious.
If you inflate the stomach, maybe?
Then you have a toy.
Speaking of things you shouldn't dig too deep into on the internet.
Oh,
Oh, God.
Alrighty, I'll throw myself into the breach and read out my idea. Definitely, we've gotten some commonalities, especially with the international theming. I definitely thought the strong international theme for different members of a kind of dreadfully unself-conscious butt rock band being themed around dragons of various nations. And just for the local content, I'd also throw in New Zealand Tanawha, which is basically a gigantic water spirit that gets in the way of public works a lot. They're very environmentally conscious, which is nice.
It's nice to see mythological creatures taking an interest in modern affairs. It doesn't happen enough in my
a
view.
positive way.
Indeed. And just to make sure that I'm going to try and double and triple down on the big red couch tropes. This is a Gua-like, over-the-top stadium rock band.
Love it.
Each of the characters / band members has strong theming. They have nanotech costuming, which means they can do dragon shit as well on stage and breathe fire, and it's totally
wearing
awesome.
dragon costumes over their dragon selves? I'm sorry to interrupt. I just need to ask that part when you said Guar. Are they wearing big rubber suits over their actual dragon bodies? Because
that you might just have made it more awesome.
Like
that would be even better.
It's like I'm a
Even
dragon,
more
but
awesomer.
dressed as
Even
a
more
dragon.
Dragons
Okay.
dressed as dragons. Nice. I like it.
Oh, for awesome.
No one would ever suspect.
No, it's just the suit, man.
And what's more, they are just a rock band in the style of Metalocalypse. They are the driving cultural force at the heart of a generation ship where they decant people, when they're like 16, 17, and they're doing this in shifts, but they always have an audience of people who are just rocking out at this. I'm thinking of a giant cylinder with an open end so you can see the stars with the stage strung across it. So they just have the best set and the most just totally out of this world kind of sort of presentation. An audience who's just woken up from hypersleep is completely bewildered, and they do these shows to impress upon them the awesomeness of space travel and going through the universe. And when the shows are over, they fight crime.
I love it.
Nice.
And I would go I would make it as portentous and self-serious version of like the Power Rangers or something like that.
How? I mean, go on.
Okay. There was an anime I mentioned earlier, Mr. Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, which is sweet and beautiful and lovely, and everyone should see it.
It is actually pretty nice, yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense most of the time, but it's still delightful. There was in the last year or so another anime released called Neo Yokio. No one's groaned, which means no one has seen it. Excellent. It was made by Netflix. It's not natively Japanese, which counts out for some people, but those people I think are being a little bit too serious about such things. But the character is voiced by Jaden Smith. He is an magistocrat in Neo Yokio, which is basically San Francisco, Tokyo, and New York smashed together at speed. He has a mecha butler voiced by Jude Law. He is fighting for supremacy on the bachelor leadership boards of Neo Yokio, and is a mopey emo idiot with the voice of Jaden Smith, who is not trying too hard to sound anything other than like a mopey emo idiot. And you know how they say you can't polish a turd? You can see your soul in this. It is almost transcendently bad.
Now, look, I'm only on board if Jane Smith is doing that accent from After Earth.
Pretty much. Didn't see too much of After Earth, but yeah.
They all sound like Elmer Fudd.
Oh, wow. That would have made it better, but it's got Stephen Fry, Steve Buscemi, Peter Serafinowicz, Joe DiMaggio, Susan Sarandon, Richard Ayoade, lots of big name voice actors.
Wait a minute, Joe DiMaggio, the baseball player?
John DiMaggio, sorry. If it was Joe DiMaggio, that would be a thing. It is.
Because I've been asking myself lately, where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio?
Jolton Joe is left and gone away. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hey.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah. So I would double down on the self-important craftiness of it and really wallow. Is I think would be my approach.
In my personal opinion, you can't go. You can't do much better as a referent than Death Clock Metalopocalypse. I mean, that's just fantastic.
I just love the term magistocrat. I'm still dwelling on that.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Never heard.
The show has wonderful ideas and then sort of fails to even engage with them because the character can't be bothered.
Much like the universe.
So, yeah.
Life. Don't talk to me about life.
Yeah, it's kind of special. I would.
Can't be
It's not
bothered.
for everyone, but yeah.
What system would you use for something like this?
That is an excellent question.
I mean, would it it almost seems like you wouldn't want to be purely narrative with it. Like, if you're making it super serious and everything, like, would you want to do some sort of old style, like some retro clone? Tables of tables? Just for atmosphere?
Just for just odd things happening. Yeah, no, this isn't a good fit for anything off the top of my head, because the idea of having giant pretentious tables for things that shouldn't normally matter, but they make you roll.
Could it be a fiasco game?
Yeah, fiasco might be the narrative direction you take it. Yeah,
you could use GURPS. That's pretty free form.
Yeah, I'd been wondering Quags, but Quags might be a bit light for that one.
Quags might be perfect. But I might be thinking that just because so many of their games have that, like, delightful tone.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
I mean, that's the people who brought us the excellent Leopard Women from Venus, for example.
Mhm.
Funkadelic Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
M-Force.
Yep. And the
Hobomancer,
aforementioned
which-
Hobomancer.
Yeah, it's like it would be a perfect game, except there's no way to do trains in it.
I can't believe they left it out. It's
Yeah,
just
I know.
so
That's
obvious.
They
major
didn't
oversight,
leave it
guys.
out.
Major oversight.
You
They
could
didn't leave it out, and there is no Vulcan death grip. You people.
He's so confused about that. Yes, there is, Eric. Vulcan death
There's-
grip. Works every time. You just reach up there and you pinch and boop, they drop to the ground.
In a related note, I suspect the next time I go to Gen Con, I'm going to be hunted down and murdered or at least beaten by somebody from Hex Games. Possibly everybody from Hex Games. And yeah, it seems fair.
There's worse ways to go, right?
Yeah,
You'll be at Gen Con.
that is
Yeah.
true.
At an absolute minimum.
And at least for a while, you'll probably get some personal space. What with all with the tape and stuff.
Oh, good point. Yeah, if they tape... I don't know, somebody might just think it's cosplaying.
Gen Con,
Yep.
death is the only way out.
Or the exit over there to the right, whichever.
Also that.
Gen Con, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
the other way.
Hotel California.
And it's on a dark desert highway.
Mhm.
Right.
The cool wind is in your hair.
Are there any systems with a good countdown timer?
Blades in the dark, apparently.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Zombie Cinema.
Oh, that's right, Zombie. I'm a total fool. I have a copy of Zombie Cinema right here. Right here in my disgusting, grubby little manipulators.
Mm.
Okay,
Go
so
on.
that might be the one to use. Because I was thinking, I also had the idea of sort of over the top, like James Bond-esque or like
Mhm.
even kind of Whovian crimes. The characters end up, they are international detective dragons from outer space. They are assigned by an agency to stop others similar to themselves, other like dragon-like entities, or perhaps you could have a whole panoply of like semi-mythical creatures or aliens based on mythical creatures, not in a serious way at all, but like over the top, be crazy with it. They have to be stopped. They've got mastermind, fiendish plans in action. You have to bounce from country to country, probably following like you'd have a table for which of many, many possible outlandish events are the clue or one part of this plan in which of various countries. It'd be, the GM would have to do a little bit of work kind of improvising, like, oh, how does it make sense? Let's see, an improbable and daring theft in Paris. Like, what does that mean exactly? Oh, it's of a landmark. Okay, so someone has stolen the Eiffel Tower.
Mm.
Ooh, I like this.
Each
And it
one.
could be like done with a deck of cards where you've got like suits mean what what kind of, like, give an adjective, and and then the numbers represent different possible things, and then so the GM doesn't even know what it's going to be until the cards are flipped, and then you just sort of have to improvise what so it's one of those free form
I
type.
like that better even than my original idea, which was that the GM would be putting together this scheme as it's rolled up, similar to like putting together some of the old wastelands from old school hex crawls and things like that, where you'd be trying to make sense of your disparate roles.
And apologies for cutting you off.
That's all good, brother. And there's some sort of like, there's this countdown timer that's leading to the completion of this thing. The only thing I'm not sure about is what kind of system would work for that. It's almost like you'd be coming up with your own system, but I mean, that would just be for generating the characters to sort of be like helplessly thrown into this alien world called Earth and having to go from country to country following the different clues around to get that international flavor. Maybe Zombie Cinema for the countdown timer, but what would you use for the characters themselves?
Inspectors comes to mind.
Yes. Something that pits the characters effectively against themselves. The
Mm-hmm.
the villainy is a known quantity, but they have to get over their shortcomings to some degree, rather than there being an external thing. That everything proceeding normally, it would be a fait accompli. These are alien. I'm for some reason thinking Clash of the Titans, but mythological creatures from outer space. Yeah, mythological creatures from outer space, but they have to deal with the situations that they find themselves in.
Some of the events on the tables would be outlandish, like the theft of the Eiffel Tower. Some would be remarkably mundane to contrast the from outer space aspect of things with the Earth aspect of things, to kind of highlight that from outer space part. Like in Rome, you have to help a doctor deliver bread. It would require a bit of work on the part of the GM, but I think it could be fun.
They'd definitely be stringing together this sense of continuity, trying to establish some continuity in it, but that's the GM's job anyway.
There was an old one a ways back called, I think it was called Role-Playing Game Designate Robots, or like Role-Playing Designate Robots, something like that. Totally free-form, characters randomly roll different robot traits, and you as the GM had a list of secret objectives that you had to get the robots to meet, because it was some unfathomable AI plan. And there were things on the table like, meet a ghost, walk backward through a doorway, things like that. And you as the GM were trying to set things up such that the players would take those actions to fulfill your checklist.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a psychologist came up with that one.
This might be somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Well, depending on how silly you wanted to make it, if they're going to different countries to do this, totally maybe they're trying to. They don't realize that dragons are only myths as far as the people are concerned, and the dragons themselves are such that they can modify their abilities to match the dragons of whatever country they're going to, whatever dragon mythology for the country they're going to visit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This one doesn't lean very heavily on the dragons aspect, and I'm not sure how to make it do that.
You're allowed to put a different weighting or misremember entirely different parts of the prompt. That has been established as part of the law. Yeah. This is part of the canon of our show.
We have a canon?
I guess we must have now.
Around here for?
I certainly like the idea this would be very much a Saturday morning cartoon kind of craziness, and exist in that period of time where people could go to other countries, and it took the time it took to fly a little model plane with a red line behind it across a map. Because no one had access to the internet and flight timetables and knew about customs and things like that.
Stock footage of a plane taking off, stock footage of a roughly similar plane touching down.
Well, that's all you really need anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly
what actually worked like that.
Because who wants to watch your hero go through customs every time they go to other country?
That could be one of the tables. Or not one of the tables, but one of the results on there is like a problem with customs because of your shoes.
Well, you've turned over clubs. It's the harrowing indignities suite of cards.
TSA agent having a bad day.
And I am, in fact, at this precise moment. Well, not right now. I'm not that rude, but I am actually working up a thing that's sort of dungeon-like. That's based on just drawing cards and like applying the results to different like subcategories, similar to what you talked about there, Blind Geek. And it's I don't know. It's a lot of fun to design. We'll see precisely how torturous it is to play.
Just as soon as you round up the subjects, get the straps laid in.
Yep. You know how it is. I can tell I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I'm talking to people who know the game.
Yeah, play testing is a nightmare if you do it right. Wait. Yeah. Am I still recording?
Needs to cry.
Hey, you got to be a little sadistic. Anyway, that's fine.
That's good. I like it. Have we left anyone out? Is there anyone yet to?
I think a few people.
Oh, yeah.
We should probably leave Mr. Five till last.
Oh, okay.
Save the best, right?
Oh, it's all his fault.
That's right.
Oh yes, he's got to illuminate us what everything means. At the end of the podcast, we'll understand what this has all been for, what the meaning of life is, basically.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Like I said, anticlimactic, but please proceed.
Again, much like the real universe. My mom had a near-death experience a few years ago. I asked her what it was like. She said, "Eh."
Wasn't there one left at least?
I think
I went. Yeah.
Yeah. We had several of us kind of like daisy chain off of Blind Geeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might leave
kind of
me.
twisted it.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, right.
Yeah. See, I could have got away with it if it weren't for you pesky kids. He says, by way of a cunning intro into International Detective Dragons from Outer Space, the Kids on Bikes adventure.
Beautiful.
Because what that title reminded me of was just the grandiose titles of investigative groups in Kids on Bikes sort of adjacent stories. So the famous Five, Secret Seven, the Three Investigators, etc.
The Choose Your Own Adventures.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I am thinking of it very much as a milk and cookies adventure, which I figure is sort of the more wholesome equivalent of a beer and pretzels game.
I love it already.
That you've got the self-titled and incredibly grandiosely named International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. These are a bunch of kids with bicycles investigating strange happenings in their hometown. I'd probably use a system. Probably I'd just blatantly rip off Peter and the Monsters, which I believe Blind Geek ran a game of a while ago.
Attempted, yes.
Yeah, that was the writing on that module left something to be desired.
Yes, it did, and that was I that is my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, that was nothing to do with you. That was all the director.
From the audience point of view, it was a lot of fun, though.
Good.
Oh, it was fun when we were doing it. There were key facts that were left out that I wish had not been, because they came up. Like, where in the hell are all the cell phones? And
so, yeah,
why is this guy doing that thing that he's doing that you mentioned he's doing, but there's no reason for it other than just it moves the plot along.
As a convenient plot device, Old Man Jenkins is right. Yeah, I would. Yeah, so I would go with the milk and cookies, Peter and the Monsters sort of game of kids investigating strange / spooky stuff around their hometown. I'm thinking sort of your Gravity Falls kind of kind of game. If you wanted to go a little bit darker on it, I'd actually tap into that whole thing of, well, I don't know what it's like for anybody else, but an enormous number of the sort of the Dungeons and Dragons fantasy games invariably seem to end up with a bunch of people on a quest where, because of character death and players changing characters, the actual people who complete the quest weren't there at the start.
Oh.
So I'm imagining the same sort of idea of the kids group of the International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. And it's just been a thing. There's a clubhouse. There's memorabilia. But there's nobody still in the club who was ever there when it started. They have no idea why it's called International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. And suddenly the reason why it's called that becomes relevant, and they really, really need to know.
That's brilliant.
That is good.
And they all have neatly stylized dragon patches on the shoulder of their jackets.
Nice. If you color code them, you can get back to the Power Rangers. I think anybody wants to do that.
And isn't that
the red dragon? The gold. Oh, that's awesome!
And for some reason, one of them has a magic bow, another has a magic shield, and
One of them has heart, I guess.
and then there's this little unicorn for some reason.
The idea that the secret club, this thing, has had members matriculate out just because they can, actual teenagers.
Yeah.
But they're currently now several generations removed from the people who actually set up, possibly for a serious reason.
Yeah, and there could be a reason that it's still in this town.
Or what are the odds that some of their parents might have been earlier members?
Do they remember? Do they know?
Ooh.
Is there a good reason why they quit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And do they keep it a secret?
Or is it just something kids know about?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like it, a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I figure if you go down the direction of why is it called that, you're starting out at Scooby-Doo territory. Your eventual destination is it.
What a great arc to take players through, especially if you can somehow build that into like mechanics in the game, like using phases or something like that.
Oh.
And have different mechanical prompts and cues and stuff. That could really be a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Something kind of like the game Hellas, where you start out. Now they use death. We don't have to use death in this, but you start out with one character, and when your character dies, the son or whatever, because it's meant to be long, epic Greek mythology type quest, the son takes over and continues where the father left off. I mean, it's not an exact not match. What's the word? Dang it. It doesn't go perfectly hand in hand with it, but it's kind of, I'm thinking something along that kind of a line where you start playing one character, and then in the course of the arc, a mechanic would suggest that you change characters.
It gets handed off to the next character, and nice.
It depends which way you're inheriting that. You could either start with either the original kids or someone who knows something about it and hand over to subsequent generations of kids, or you could have the inciting event take place and then hand it back to the generations of teens, 20-somethings, adults. Everything getting more...
Wait, when you mentioned the parents, I was thinking it would be cool to have, on one hand, you've got the kids who are trying to keep it a secret from the parents. On the other hand, you've got the parents who used to be members, but they're trying to keep that a secret from the kids. So nobody's being honest about anything because they don't want the other side to know what's going on.
If you're inheriting things, you mentioned memorabilia. What if there were some sort of mechanic or something like that where you would contribute memorabilia? Maybe they could be, I don't know, aspects or something like that would be left behind for like the next quote unquote generation to find. I don't know how you do that, but I feel like there's some potential there.
Definitely.
Very much so.
Yeah, you could invest those with the significance, which becomes possibly, if you're doing an it style thing, it would be the weapons that you use to defeat the thing that prompted the inciting creature / scary clown. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be snuck up on sort of like across time, like through multiple generations. If we're bringing in some it cosmological horror type stuff.
If you made this a Fate game, you could make it. What's the highest milestone? Significant? No.
We were just joking about that the other day in my other group because we're like the names are wrong. The people who designed this did it wrong. I think the major. Hold on. I think you got major and then significant, but I'll look it up right this very second.
Okay. Well, anyway,
whatever the biggest one is.
Whatever the biggest one is, that one of the options could be you make one of the aspects that are on the table at the moment. As we know, equipment can be an aspect or whatever. A handoff aspect.
And it just sticks around basically for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you're building a mythology. You're building an arsenal of sacred kind of objects, almost.
Yeah.
As well as building the mythology, what if that indicated something about the threat itself? Like what people are contributing and what the players are
doing. The secret behind what the town or something.
It is for reference and for any of the for the audience who is probably screaming what it is. They are minor, significant, and major, with major being the largest one.
Okay. I suppose one question is, would you have for the big finale the situation where you've got multiple generations of the kids, the international detective dragons from outer space, all kind of pitching in to solve the problem?
That could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially if you'd gone several sessions, game phases, or whatever without those characters that you created and maybe came to know and love a little bit.
You get to have the all-star cast for the...
Mm-hmm.
And the reason
that would be so kick-ass.
the reason I think about it is I haven't yet seen the second season of Stranger Things, but it struck me in the finale of the first season that you essentially have three groups who are almost playing three different games. That they're at least for most of it, three completely different threat levels, three completely different levels of risk, all contributing to the same solution. It'd be a bugger of a thing to try to capture in a game, but if you could do it,
if you had a good group of players who really were leaning into it and invested in it, I think you could totally pull off that idea. I think it would work great.
Yeah, to a degree, you've got to have people who are prepared to let go and allow things to and put the character to the side, and then possibly have them have a regretful normal life outside of the game, but to have them come back triumphantly near the finale. But you could pick and choose your favorite characters from the so multi-generational troop play is not something I have come across before, which that's damned interesting.
That's something I've always kind of wanted to do, but never found the right game to do it in. I might just have to steal this idea and run it.
You should totally do that.
Yeah, I mean, Ars Magica was always the one we were going, hey, this troop play idea is amazing. But
it is pretty cool. It's hard to make it work.
Yeah.
The closest thing I've seen are G.I. Joe style games where, Jingo, from keep bringing up Hex games, but
good old Jingo.
Whatever the G.I. Joe. It's the same word I was looking for before, and I can't. Whatever the G.I. Joe thing
word
is,
you're looking for.
Analog. Thank you. God dang it. Yes.
I am your Brockus region.
You are, man. Okay. Whatever the G.I. Joe analog is in the Cartoon Action Hour games, I know there is one, and they bring up the idea that you might play Swamp Rat in one adventure and then play, Kringle in another, where you're in the North Pole, so you don't want the art. And you can't really, so you have a bunch of characters on standby. Whichever one you happen to need any given time could be the one that you bring out. That's the closest thing I've seen to troop play like that.
Yeah. That reminds me of the old.
Make me crave. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. Reminds me of the old Dragonlance campaign, where in different modules you played a different set of characters depending who was involved. Yeah.
I had completely forgotten about the Dragonlance campaign.
Most of us have.
Yeah, there are a few now who do.
In some ways, it's a good thing, but.
They're bringing it back for 5th edition, I think, so that'll be interesting.
Cut to someone presenting a child with the red box. Your father wanted you to have this when you were older.
But your uncle
wouldn't allow it.
Very much like that, actually, yeah.
A setup like that would totally make me crave the redemption arc for some character.
Depends where it's going, but that's
true. You got it.
All right. Well, it's a good thing this is recorded because I don't have to service my campaign notes. I think I've got the right group to run this with too.
Well, if only the technology existed to somehow run the game and record it and then put the infant. I'm dreaming.
God,
that'll never happen.
Never happen.
Legends say that the ancients possess such means. Those arts are lost to us now.
Lost with Atlantis.
And that leaves only one.
There can be only one.
This has been fascinating. This seriously, it's been just from that one phrase, from that one title. This has been extremely, extremely interesting to hear all the different directions it could go in. Yeah, if I'm to lend any gravitas to help celebrate 100 episodes of the Big Red Couch, then I suppose it would be the final, after 11-year revelation of why the podcast was called International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. It would be to do just that, because there isn't another episode of IDDFOS for me to promise.
I was going to say, should we find out on the next episode of The Big Red Couch?
That would be perfect. If you've been putting it off this long, you can put it off from another venue as well, just to keep it going.
The handoff.
I was vaguely expecting with that big lead up to say, and I can say, none of your business. Click.
Well, the reason actually is,
Oh no! Don't.
well,
God bless you and all your kin.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell.
I really thought that was it, and you were hanging up.
So did I.
And I was like, wait.
No,
I will personally make sure the devil doesn't know you're dead until half an hour after you're in heaven, sir. That was amazing.
I might as well get it off my chest. And for our 100th episode, Blind Geek came up with a song adaptation that quite seriously put me in tears when I was listening to it. And it was that good. Yeah. And I think if only as a long overdue thank you to him, he's also tonight going to find out why the podcast was called International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. And it was it's really, as I suspected, it's going to be anticlimactic, but this is the reason.
Guys, I'm genuinely excited.
11, no reason to be, really, seriously. 11 years ago, when I was listening to other podcasts, and at the same time, of course, taking in whatever media, mass media, mainstream media that I was taking in, and I wasn't taking in very much, because none of it probably continues today to a certain extent. We're asking any of the questions that were relevant or interesting or thought-provoking. It was just schlock.
Mm-hmm.
It all lowest common denominator crap that didn't invoke thought, didn't invoke introspection or examination of the simplest of questions. And I thought, all right, I'm hearing all these other podcasts. These folks are doing their thing and talking about what they want to talk about. I'm curious as to why things are the way they are. And I was 46 at the time and still considered myself to be extremely ignorant of some very basic things like, Billy Joel can write the song, "We Didn't Start the Fire." And I was thinking, yeah, well, then who did? And why does it keep burning? And what's behind all this? What's going on and why? And I thought, all right, I'm gonna do a podcast. And I was extremely ambitious at the time. And I think I highly overestimated the amount of time and energy that I would have to put into this thing. And it was going to be a very, very different format. It wasn't going to be just me with a recorder sitting outside of the shop I used to work at or driving in my car doing the solo version of what it turned out to be, as everyone has heard who's listened, of course. It was going to be performed. It was going to be a story. It was going to be an ongoing semi-work of fiction, semi-interaction with the audience, in which I would include sound effects for everything, of course, different characters with different character voices, of course. And the premise was that a fleet of historian ships, an interstellar historian vessels that were intent on, and their main purpose was to look at, examine, and report back on other cultures in the galaxy, where this fleet of ships was approaching Earth, and the idea was that they were going to land and interact with the population and discover what they could about what was up with these humans. And the year that they were supposed to land was 1906. At any rate, it was going to be 100 years before IDDFOS came out in the first episode. And of course, some kind of an error took place in the navigation. One ship got too close to another. The matrix, the field, or whatever it was that they were using for interstellar travel, collapsed, broke, spun them off into different directions, and only one ship managed to land on Earth intact, crash land, and burrowed itself beneath the Earth outside some farm in an obscure area in the wrong time. They landed in 2006 rather than 1906. And the culture and the times that they had vaguely some idea of what was vastly different, of course. And the ship itself was equipped with an AI. It had one of those built-in consciousness type of things, but it was still very robotic, still very artificial intelligence, and it itself had I think the mildest understanding of idioms and colloquialisms and fuzzy thinking, but it was still extremely very functional, in full control of the ship, and able to offer assistance to the crew who were intent on carrying out their mission. And it would have been myself playing whoever the leader of the group was, and myself playing whoever the engineer was, and whoever the medical officer was, and whoever all the different parts. I was nothing if not an incurable ham to think I was going to be able to pull this off. And I ended up losing. I think losing the idea of trying to get that done, because when I started the podcast, I think things had picked up in terms of daily requirements at work and in real life. So it ended up being an entirely different format. But I still needed a name for the show, and the name for the show was going to be based on the end of the first episode. And I'm at a handicap here because I did actually record that first episode in the original format and have since completely lost that recording.
Yeah.
Along with the script.
Oh.
But the basic premise was that as the leader, I sent our group off to be the researchers that they were meant to be, and was just leaving the ship and realized that as we were going to be posing as a group similar to what we expected to find in 1906, like the Benevolent Order of Optimists, or the Loyal Order of Elks, or whatever the current secret and public groups of folks that formed organizations and traveled around being just benevolent groups or charitable organizations, in order to have a cover of some kind for having meetings and traveling about. And as a leader, I was delegating it to the ship's computer as I was leaving the ship. Oh, and we'll need a cover name, something that puts people off their guard and relaxes them. Tell them that we cross all borders, that all we seek is the truth, that we try to represent the oldest wisdom, the greatest might, and the noblest of intentions and power that any creature could have, and that we're from far away. Come up with a title for our group, and that's what we'll call ourselves. In the meantime, lock up the ship, keep everything secure, make sure we're screened, masked, no one can find us, and I'll be back in a few days. And so the ship's AI takes exactly what he said, mulls it over, and realizes that what the group should be called was International Detective Dragons from Outer Space.
Very nice.
That's why the podcast is International Detective Dragons from Outer Space. There you have it. As a gift and a help to celebrate your 100th episode, and impressed as hell over the fact that after so many years, that phrase has now been able to lend to the festivities here as part of your format of coming up with deep, thought-provoking, introspective, intelligent treatment of phrases of all kinds over all this time that transcend and surpass and soar above the mainstream, which remains today, for the most part, not asking the kinds of questions that folks should be contemplating or engaging in the kinds of conversations that you guys have held and have entertained people these 100 episodes. Congratulations to you. And my thanks once again, obviously, for inviting us over to help you celebrate.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
What he said.
And you heard it here, folks. Big Red Couch and M5 approved.
A5A. We need a big sticker and a stamp. You can
some sort of auditing process. Yeah.
My approval and $1.50 will get you a cup of coffee. No worries.
You get your approval for a cup of coffee and $1.50. I'll approve anything. Send me some coffee.
Thank you for sharing that story with us. That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Awesome. Not anticlimactic at all from this end.
No, not at all.
No.
That
was great.
And maybe someone might be brave enough to actually pull it off in their own version, where they perform all the parts. And no, I mean, looking back at it, that was egotistical and arrogant as hell to think I was going to put on a play every damn week with 4 or 5 different characters examining the change of culture over 100 years in the United States and the world.
It was ambition and hope, and I think the world needs more of that.
Yes.
Probably.
Indeed.
And yeah, I feel that I should congratulate all of us, and I'm not just speaking about the podcast or listeners, everyone in general, that we've made it this far. Things have been hairy lately.
Oh, when you asked when we first got together, how's everybody been? I was going to say, I've just been obsessed with YouTube political videos.
Oh, yeah, that's a deep well.
Yeah, I've given up on YouTube political videos. I'm instead watching a Norwegian metaler do covers of various other songs.
There you go.
A Norwegian metaler do covers of YouTube political videos.
That would be better.
Might be
definitely.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, that might actually be pretty good. There is there is a song out there by I think Coheed and Cambria who took a bunch of judicial comments by the late Supreme Court Justice Scalia and put them to music.
Oh, yeah, there's another group, I can't remember their name, but they took a bunch of Trump's tweets and turned them into an 80s emo rock song, which was actually quite funny how well they kind of worked.
And people say the man is not contributing to the arts.
If we are going to talk about musical interpretations of politicians, Cassette Boys' remix of political speeches to various things, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
There was also somebody who remixed Donald Trump into the Talking Heads song.
Once in a Lifetime.
Once in a Lifetime. That was amazing. Really.
Oh, yes! Is that the You May Find Yourself song?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I've heard that. That was great.
Wow.
Oh yeah, do check that out. That's incredible.
I think Pogo needs to get in on this and do some stuff with Trump speeches.
I think they probably have similar views on a lot of things, so you're probably right. I can't wait until I think we're finally starting to get around to the point where we're going to have the power to quash this kind of disrespectful, un-American talk.
I would just love to be around. I'd really love to be around in 20 years when the TV movie of this whole year comes out.
I don't want to release the thing.
With Mark Ruffalo and Mark Ruffalo.
Be an after-school special.
Movie? I suspect we'll be looking at like, musical theater of some kind.
Nice.
Ugh.
Like the producers, but about Donald Trump.
Oh, boy.
Oh yeah.
It'll read like Sweeney Todd, or it'll have inflatable farting bladders at the end.
Good old traditional medieval humor. Great. That's hitting people with pig's bladders.
I'm liking the theory I've heard recently that there is an upcoming wedding in the British royal family, and this means that somebody with American citizenship is going to be part of the British royal house, which means that potentially, if they play their cards right and can get the child of that relationship into the White House, we get the empire back.
Or at least the most disagreeing chunk of it.
After the reign of this idiot, you're welcome to it, my friend. Here, take it. The smoking charred heap of what's left.
We're sorry. We never should have left you. We're so sorry.
Ask Mom if we can have our room back.
That's okay. I'm expecting a certain amount of that in these parts in the year to come. With the, we don't need Europe. What do we need Europe for? Oh, wait. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything plus cafe workers.
Oh, man. Did anybody else see the bumper sticker with the red, white? It was a bumper sticker, red, white, and blue flag, and it said, "Any functioning adult, 2020." Holy
So
crap.
disrespectful.
And deservedly so.
Wow. Okay, I think we have covered all of the usual bases and provided a bumper episode. We've been editing down to like 45 minutes lately, so this is going to be
that ain't happening on this one.
No, sorry guys, it's going to be
It takes us over 45 minutes just to say hello.
Episode 200.1.
Exactly. We don't even. We're lucky we get started an hour in.
100.1.
And
I have to tell you this like a bunny. I have to tell you this before I forget, because it was the universe all coming together. I think Annam told you that I was going to be late because I had to go pick up a sofa on the way here. Guess what it was? Just guess.
No.
Can you?
Probably some sort
Honest
of
God,
small,
it
maybe
was a big
green.
red couch.
Oh my God.
Finally,
Oh yeah, are you guys going to regale us with the story of how the big red couch got its name?
Is red velvet. So I had to tell you that before I forgot because it was too funny.
Did you take pictures?
awesome.
I did not because I was busy toting and hauling the damn thing, but I will tomorrow. Because it's going to get stripped. It's not going to stay a big red couch. It's going to become a big beige damask gold something couch, but whatever. So
A big beige Davenport.
it's gonna stay a couch. It's gonna change colors, but for tonight it was a big red.
Awesome.
In your honor, that's what I went to fetch.
The story behind what the big red and couchness part of the podcast was literally that was in the room when we started recording.
Looking around, big beige refrigerator. No, that doesn't sound good. Kind of board brown carpet. Nope.
Medium-sized particle board desk. No, that doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
Or crawling eldritch damp spot going up the wall was probably the other contender. So
Yeah, I like that one.
Hard to say sometimes, but I like that one.
Yeah, it was either that or the big foam D6.
That's pretty good.
But the big red couch is where our collective asses were parked for at least the first 30-odd episodes.
Wow.
It's gone on to a successful career in supporting counsellors and counselees at a local practice, so it's doing okay. You don't have to worry about it.
If only they knew the history.
They would never enter that practice again out of terror. Oh, wait, nobody else was thinking that. Awkward. So many terrible ideas have soaked into that couch over the years.
Maybe 100 more at least.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
Was this going to be your holiday show, or is that something?
This is more or less the Christmas episode because this
Do you want us
this
to sing
sucker drops.
carols?
Let's all pick different ones.
Pick exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. One,
that would be a good
three.
idea.
God rest him in
Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Come from our house Christmas Eve. You can still but as for me and Grandma,
And on that horrifyingly discordant note, I would like to once again thank thank you all for coming on the show.
Please, God, never come back here again.
Are you kidding me? Open invitation.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you.
Glad you were able to make it. I'm incredibly grateful that you were willing to give up a evening of gaming for
Oh wow!
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, did I not
thanks,
tell you
guys.
that bit? Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah, no, I'm suitably impressed.
And thank you. This show was all the better for your presence.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And
Happy to
I'm
It was a
hoping
pleasure.
that at some day, maybe we can overtake.
Oh, the gauntlet goes down.
Challenge, throwing down.
If you do weekly, you can do that.
Yeah,
That's
that,
not gonna happen.
yeah, that's not gonna happen.
How do we get it out?
Yeah,
You can do it, Craig. I believe in you. I've always believed in you.
Wait, I thought you believed in me. Wait a
You
minute.
can believe in multiple things at the same time.
Oh, no, you can't.
God,
Oh,
that's how politics works.
Even contradictory things. You try it.
Yes. It doesn't matter if the videos are real.
That is from a movie, damn it. What movie? I believe in you. I've
It's from-
always believed in you. What is that
Yeah.
from?
The Tick.
Oh, okay. I thought it
Yeah.
was-
I was going to guess.
believe in you,
Tyrant
President
Still, so I was
Carter.
way out.
Yep.
Oh, that was all you can do is try, and they can't take that away from you.
True enough.
Okay. Well, I need to get going, but if you all want to chat for a little bit, you can. But it's been a pleasure, and look forward to meeting up with you guys again sometime.
Hear, hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you all. And from the Big Red Couch, that's good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Want to hear more of our shenanigans? Then go to hoarde.net and click on the button that looks like a couch. The Big Red Couch is released under Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike 3.0 Unported from creativecommons.org. All music on the show comes from the album Universal Fluff Theory by Krakatoa. Visit them at krakatoa.com or follow the link from our page. See you next time.
I'm going to put myself on mute so the people that own this establishment can get on with their business.
Hear, hear.
Good idea.
That's a good point. We're
Yes.
supposed to be the guests
Mr.
here.
Champagne.
No, I'm liking the idea of just running all of that and then just kind of sort of lumping in with.
Wait, what show am I listening to?
Yeah.
You edit? Wow.
What's this word edit? I don't understand.
We try. I think it adds at least 10 IQ points to the pair of us. But
It is nice to.